Between June 2021 and January 2023, Hyacinth Blair, a 63-year-old NHS admin worker from Lewisham, sent an almost staggering £85,000 to her online boyfriend in Nigeria. A fascinating name, Hyacinth. It symbolizes power, pride, beauty. I can assure you this story is none of those things. But this isn't an ordinary romance scam where the victim is sending over large amounts of money from their own bank account. No, that would be too easy, wouldn't it? Wouldn't it? She abused her position within the NHS, with her role being in partnership with the council, and stole the almost £85,000 from the South London and Maudsley Foundation Trust. And, if we're being exact, it was a reported £83,990 of taxpayers' money. I just need to stress, by the way, just to clarify, we paid for that, technically. In January of 2023, the council raised concerns about a suspected misuse of a council-issued prepaid card. This card was intended for operational expenses such as court fees. Who exactly held this card? You guessed it, none other than Hyacinth. Internal investigations found that she had withdrawn money from various ATMs and made unauthorized top-ups to the card for her own personal uses. And again, perhaps unlike ordinary romance scams, there doesn't seem to be any catfishing involved in this particular case, or at least none that's been reported. It is reported, however, that her online boyfriend's name was Michael Okafor. So far, I have some big questions. I've never worked in admin, so I don't know the full logistics behind this all, but is it a regular occurrence that an admin worker would have access to such funds? I assume so, if they have provided her with a prepaid card, so to speak, to be able to pay for all these operational expenses. But is no one checking the money coming out? Over the course of approximately a year and a half, I guess, is no one noticing this? Is there no one else in charge, I guess? Or is there no one else, at the very least, also checking up on the funds? Or have they truly just trusted this person? Yeah, go have fun, mate. You do whatever you want with the card. We're not gonna figure out until a bloody year and a half later. The case was eventually referred to Lewisham Police's Criminal Investigation Department, and shockingly, Blair was arrested. Interestingly, when initially questioned, she didn't know why she stole the money, but eventually admitted that it was for her online boyfriend. And to me, I find it very interesting, as I mentioned, that you don't seem to know why you're stealing something. That's interesting, if I could use her word. It's interesting. She did eventually admit guilty to fraud by abuse of position, sentenced to 2 years in prison, but the sentence, which might come as a shock to some people, was fully suspended. The following are some notes regarding the judge's decision to suspend the sentence. Judge Lynn Taton KC cited Blair's depression, no previous convictions, and references of her good character. The judge went on to say the following. She emphasized Blair stealing the money intended for public services had made her colleagues and community highly distressed. The judge explained there had to be a thorough review of financial controls and there has been an effect on the council's reputation. Incidents like this undermine confidence in the council's systems. The consequences of your actions will be felt for a long time, and the impact on staff and the community was severe. In my view, there was sustained dishonesty, not only explained by pressure or mental health issues. This involved planning and abuse of trust. I am skeptical about some of the explanations, but you have never been in prison before and there are some prospects of rehabilitation, so I am prepared to suspend sentence. You are fortunate, be very clear, if you come back before this court, you will go to prison. A council spokesperson said, "We take fraud and financial misconduct extremely seriously. No matter what the circumstances, there is no excuse for a fraud of this scale, and we will always prosecute those who steal from the public purse." She's now, unsurprisingly, unemployed and on universal credit benefits, which essentially allow you to manage living costs. She will have to undertake 250 hours of unpaid work, 15 days rehabilitation, and, in my opinion, the most important here, a 6-month mental health treatment. I say it's the most important because if her depression is genuine, then she needs support. And if it isn't genuine, and this was a means of reducing the potential sentence perhaps, I feel as if it's not genuine, it's a spit in the face of people who do genuinely struggle with depression. I also think the mental health support is important because in a lot of romance scams, the lover on the other end of the phone usually display a lot of abusive behavior, verbal, financial, and the victim on the other end seems to accept all of that behavior, sweep it under the rug. Maybe they misconstrue it as love or a real relationship. So I believe mental health treatment is important here as well, because it's important that this person recognizes that this type of behavior from the other person, their so-called lover, is not the way a person should conduct themselves in a relationship with someone they claim to love. I believe it's important to recognize that these behaviors are very much big red flags, but they are also detrimental to the future you, because if you accept them now, you will accept future behavior, maybe in another relationship, maybe even in the same relationship, and your mental health will suffer, and in unfortunate circumstances, perhaps physically, you will also suffer should the relationship become abusive in the physical sense. Now, in one article, it's reported that she confessed to her probation officer that she felt pressured into taking the money, but couldn't explain why. But in another article, it's reported that she said Michael demanded the money, pressured, which left her feeling helpless, but concerned about stealing. Okay, maybe there's a flaw in your concerns there. I just want to interject here and say, if you do have any sort of concern in a relationship, or a gut feeling is the common phrase, about anything, just run with it, alright? What's the worst that can happen, alright? Believe yourself. Unless you believing yourself means you will fall for things like this, then don't believe yourself. I guess that's where it gets all cloudy and complicated. I do have a question here though, going back on what we just touched on with the two different publishers seemingly stating different things. Is this just a case of publishers wording the articles differently? Or is it a case of Blair admitting to different things?
Allegedly.
And sort of her story doesn't seem to be consistent.
Allegedly.
Let me know your thoughts in the comments. Obviously, the big thing here, as we touched on throughout, the money that was stolen is taxpayers' money. And if you're from the UK, you will already know that the NHS is already struggling as it is, right? And maybe someone might argue that in the grand scheme of things, this money wasn't going to fix the NHS, XYZ. It wasn't going to even pay for X amount of beds, for example. But it's still a disgusting amount of money to send to someone who I'm 99% sure they did not even video call one another. So that's a crazy amount to send to someone who basically doesn't care about you enough to even chat with you on a virtual screen. It's not virtual, the screen is there. You get what I'm saying. Let alone that sort of money taken from us. Like, it's even worse that you're stealing from a service that's whole existence is to heal people. Like, honestly, I personally struggle to see how she had concerns about stealing the money. If she was to fall ill, ironically, she's gonna turn to the NHS. And unless her mental health treatment is privatized, the mental health treatment is also going to come from the NHS. So, well done, you've kind of shot yourself in the foot here. This might come across harsh to some people, but I struggle in all these stories, all of these cases that we cover. I struggle to find sympathy for someone who is willing to send this much money to someone they've never met, let alone feel sympathy from someone stealing from such a service. Another aspect to consider here that I just want to point out in reference to her references of good character. Earlier on, it's reported that she initially didn't confess that this money was for her lover, right? Is that good character? Because seemingly that tells me she's willing to stick up for a literal stranger. Now I know manipulation is always a factor in these cases, and a lot of people point to it as they were scammed, they were forced to do XYZ, but you are in control. As much as there is manipulation, you are the one walking up to the ATMs to withdraw the money. You are the one, inserting the card. You are the one taking the money out. You know where it's going to be used. You already claimed you had concerns. So what kept you going? Now, in a lot of these cases, there's a level of greed involved because on the other end, the partner, in quotations, very heavily, by the way, they do sometimes offer a cut, right? They do offer, oh, you can come live with me, we'll build some crazy life together. So there is a level of greed, and I wish more people understood that you're essentially buying a relationship here. It's really sad that you believe the best way for you to have a relationship is through purchasing love. So, going back on to her confession, it wasn't until, I guess, it got a bit too hot in the kitchen that she decided, okay, I'll confess it's for my online lover. I don't know if you can chalk that up as good character, because you were willing to lie.
Allegedly.
So, let me know your thoughts. I'd love to know more about their conversations, how they spoke to one another, especially how Michael was speaking to her. I'd love to know, to get a bit more context about things, but unfortunately nothing of the sort was reported on. I'd also love to know what her explanations were, because if the judge found them skeptical, bloody, if I was to read what she was using as excuses and justifications, If the judge found it skeptical, what the bloody hell am I going to find it? Now, concerningly, it's reported that in the UK last year, £106 million was lost to romance scams. And according to National Fraud Intelligence Bureau, these crimes have increased by 9% compared to last year. I guess the increase would make sense because as society has gone on, and obviously as the years have gone on, technology is becoming more and more prevalent in people's lives. And more people are going online, and unfortunately, that does mean more and more people will at least be facing romance scams at some point or another. For example, I get a ton of messages, scam texts, etc., etc. So imagine that, but for everyone, it's crazy. Even more concerningly, maybe, which how much more concerning can we get? But it's getting there. In the financial year of 2024/2025, I don't know why I said it like that, but the average swindling of victims was £11,000, £222. Again, I don't know why I said it like that. But what is going on? People have too much money, or they are genuinely happy sending that much money to someone, again, I'm 99% sure, you've not even had a video call with. Again, as I touched on earlier, I wish people would recognize that they are literally buying love here. Maybe they're happy with that because it is what they're doing. They're going proper head first into it. They are buying love. But I just wish people would recognize that is not how a good relationship starts. Now, on one of the web pages, one of the articles, I came across this comment in the comment section. I'll share it with you guys. Have they managed to get any of the money back, and what happened to the Nigerian? It's probably safe to say that the money, nobody's ever seen that stuff again, okay? It's gone Casper. You ain't getting that back. Especially considering she withdrew the money. I mean, this would be a whole nother case if it was like direct bank transfers, but often scammers are not going to do that, and if they are going to do bank transfers, they're not going to use one of their own, they're going to use someone else's. So, considering she withdrew the money, it's maybe likely that either the money was put through crypto and some kind of Bitcoin was shoved up the scammer's ass, or she purchased gift cards and then sent the funds over in that way so that the scammer could then sell those codes at a profit or something, and people get cuts of the profit, XYZ. So I don't think you're seeing the money. In regards to the scammer, it's not actually specified if the scammer is Nigerian or just in Nigeria. Like, there could be a case here of a VPN being used, maybe, or the scammer just telling Blair, yeah, I'm in Nigeria. So, regards to that portion of the comment, the scammer probably is not going to be caught as well. Just as the money is most likely untraceable, the scammer probably will not be traced, because I think there was a case before that we looked at, or I heard this somewhere. It's all, a blur in my head considering how many of this kind of stuff we look at. But let me know in the comments if I'm correct in thinking this. But I don't think a authority in the UK, unless it goes to like the top dogs, do you know what I mean? Like FBI, which FBI is not in the UK, but you get what I mean, like those type of peeps. If it goes to them, probably they've got some, is the word jurisdiction? They've maybe got the power to be able to extradite people, maybe go digging deeper in other countries. But if we're talking police on a ground level, I'm not sure they can do much. Now, you might be wondering, why have I got my phone? No! Hello? Oh, is that my lover, Jennifer Aniston? Yes, hello, how you doing, baby? No, it's... Okay, that wasn't as funny as I thought in my head, but I wanted to take a look at some of the comments that I saw regarding this story on Twitter. Now, I just want to preface that a lot of the comments, maybe even 99% of what I saw, were bigoted in nature, okay? There was no mention of Blair's ethnicity, religion, anything of that sort, but the comments have somehow made it into a bigoted cesspool going at people of different ethnicities, religions, etc. So, what did I expect from Twitter, of all places? Because seemingly, as time has gone on, that's what the app has turned into, a place where people can just amplify their bigoted words. So I don't have much to go through, but I'll share some with you. Jailing a 63-year-old would have cost us more. The question is, why does an admin worker have control over NHS budget? And why are there no controls when sending NHS funds to Nigeria? Now, I don't believe this person read the actual article, because these comments come under a post where it's just a picture of the headline. So, I mean, if that doesn't tell you all about the people spreading bigotry, that they just see a headline and just vomit out hatred, I don't know what will, to be honest. So, in terms of why are there no controls sending funds to Nigeria, she withdrew the money. So, again, it's not direct transfers, so I guess there can't be a control of sending the funds to Nigeria because they're not going there. Somewhat that made sense, but where are the controls in how much she's withdrawing, how many times she's withdrawing, and why? I'd love to know her excuses, by the way. If anyone questioned her, what would she have said? Then you argue again. Good character? If she's done this continuously, with all her concerns, when were you going to stop? Because it doesn't seem like you were going to stop until you got caught,
Allegedly.
Again, I mean, I don't know the logistics. Why does an admin worker have control over such things? But I guess we covered that in the sense that they trusted her to just watch over operational expenses. The main reason I picked this was to address the, 63-year-old costing more to be imprisoned. Would it... I do... Can I speak English? That's the main thing. I do think it would probably cost more than £83,990 to keep her imprisoned. Food costs, XYZ. But let me know your thoughts, because I don't know if it was right or not to imprison her. On one hand, prisons, again, much like the NHS, are struggling in the UK. There was a time, I think earlier on in the year, where certain criminals, if I remember correctly, were let go early to make more room in prisons because, fundings are not good. But let me know if I'm correct in that, if you're from the UK. But then on the other hand, I do see, if you was to say this is not a good, what's the word I'm looking for, deterrence of such a crime, because she did steal, quite literally. She was duped, maybe, yes, but she still stole, and she did confess that she had concerns about stealing, but continued. So I see both sides. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. The next one we touched on a little bit. She was scammed and forced into it. Sure, but where are we drawing the line then? I mean, this is your money as well, right? I'm presuming this person pays taxes. So you are happy with your money being used to fund a criminal's lifestyle. And if you see scammers, sometimes they post pictures of themselves, Gucci shirts, right? Living high life, parties, cars, etc. You're happy to see that? You like that? Alright. As much as yes, again, she was duped. But I'd love to see the conversations, right? Did she play more of a part than we know, right? I'd love to see more. Allegedly. But she confessed to having the concerns and continued. I don't think I can emphasize that enough. And then the last comment, because again, there was just too much bigotry and there wasn't actually anything being asked that could raise a discussion. More so, I'm gonna spew hatred. Maybe someone will, yeah, I love this. There were many hearts on those kind of comments as well, by the way, so it's sad that many people think in such a way when there's a criminal. We're talking about someone stealing from taxpayers, stealing from the NHS. What's it got to do with your warped view on the world? Anyway, this person says, unfortunately, I was scammed £2,500. Thought I lost. Hope few days later I was referred to this account. An expert, he recovered my funds back to me. His genuine reach out now. I mean, that grammatically is all over the place. And coming from me, that's rich. I can't formulate sentences half the time. But that didn't make any sense. And I just picked out, just as a means of showing you guys, please stay safe. Because when you see a comment like that, more often than not, it's another scam. You're gonna be like, oh, I was scammed. I'll reach out to this person. Maybe I'll get my money back and they'll do some kind of madness to you. So watch out, all right? All in all, disgusting, if I'm allowed to say that. Truly disgusting to see such a thing. And to see such a thing from someone working somewhere that people put their trust in, you know? It leaves a sour taste in your mouth. I don't know if people all across the UK now are going to be like, oh, I can't trust the NHS and stuff like that. But, I mean, I don't want to say there's got to be more people like her, because I would truly hope not. But who knows what was going on behind closed doors? Did someone know and swept it under the rug? There's been horror stories of individuals sweeping things under the rug, so I truly hope that's the end of this and I never hear of something ever again like that.
What did that just mean?
Hopefully you guys learned something. Hopefully you have been made aware that, hey man, look, trust can only go so far. Even if you're in you work somewhere where it's supposed to be trustworthy. It truly is sad to see. I hope the mental health treatment can help her address these issues. And I hope she has learned from this. But let me know your thoughts. I'll see you guys next time. Please stay safe online. Nobody's going to contact you, right? There's so many questions I have still, man. Like, what was Michael's pictures? I'd love to know. Do you know what I mean? I'd love to know the age. Sometimes there's big age gaps in stories like this. I'd love to know why she wanted to be with someone who was happy to take this much money from her, and not from her, from bloody NHS. And did Michael know it was being stolen, right? If seemingly he pressured her to do this, then he knew. And then I ask, you're happy to be with someone who is happy for you to steal money from NHS? What kind of Bonnie and Clyde bullshit is this? I got too many questions. If I try and ask them all, I don't know how long this will end up being. So please stay safe online, everyone. recognize when you're being a fool, okay? And educate those around you. Bye. It's just disgusting, you know?